Okay, so we're going to talk about the cash flow cascade today. Um, if you have set your budget up, like we talked about in the previous videos, you've got it set up in terms of priority. So you've got your highest priority items at the top, lower priority things towards the bottom. This is, again, not necessarily in terms of importance always. Obviously, the Mars trip would be a lot more fun than, say, your homeowner's insurance, but it's a matter of you've committed yourself to certain things, and there's certain things that you have to pay. So it's a little bit of priority, importance, dates, so it's a little bit of a top to bottom. So you're going from highest priority, highest commitment, I suppose, down to lowest priority, lowest commitment is what it would be. Another way to think of it is just an inverted Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you've got your shelter, food, things at the kind of top, which would be the bottom of the pyramid, all the way down to the kind of self-actualization things at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to use like a cash flow cascade. The reason I call it that is it's a little bit like if you've been to one of these, like a water park or a splash pad. Let's say they've got these big buckets that fill up with water very slowly. It fills up, it tips over and dumps water on everybody, and lots of other little small buckets, and kids love it, and it's fun, especially when it's 95 degrees in August in Florida. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in just a manual paycheck, essentially, as if I have some money coming in that I got paid. Put this over here. One note is pay no attention to the dollar amount. I'm just going to do this to make it easier on myself, to make it a nice round number. But if you need to, cut it in half, add a zero, take a zero off, whatever you need to do to make it more applicable to yourself. It's more just the fact that I'm going to have a certain amount that I'm going to need to allocate amongst these different categories. So I'm going to start just with 10,000. All right, so I'm going to come up to my budget. I've got $10,297.03 to allocate. This is my big bucket at the top. This is my to be budgeted. Money comes in, it goes into to be budgeted, it goes into the big bucket at the top. What I'm going to do is, in a sense, is I'm going to tip this bucket over and I'm going to pour it into these other buckets, and as they start to fill up, I'll get to the next bucket and the next bucket and the next bucket is a way to think about it. But I have to fill the top ones up first or there's nothing left. And if I start to fill the top ones up, I may run out of water before I get to these lower priority, lower commitment things at the bottom. So I'm going to start with kind of pay yourself first. I want to, let's say, build up a rainy day fund. So I'm going to set aside $1,000 for that. Rent/mortgage, let's say that's $3,000. My groceries are, let's call it $1,750. Utilities, let's say it's $200. Internet, $175. Transportation, this can be, I'm going to say $800. Again, I add a lot of things in there. If you remember from the last video, I jam a lot of things into transportation, like insurance, parking, car payments, gas. Everything goes into transportation, basically what it takes for me to get around. But if you got two cars, I mean, that can get pretty expensive. So renter/home insurance, let's say that's $150. Kids, let's say it's $200. Let's say I don't know. Let's say it's $200. Medical, this is like above and beyond what your health insurance would pay, or if you've got a high deductible plan, what you're paying for medical expenses. Let's say that's $100 a month. Monthly gifts, I'll put $100. Digital subscriptions, maybe this is like a newspaper or some online thing I subscribe to. Let's say it's $100 total. Interest, hopefully this is zero, but I'm going to put $100 in there. What is this? I guess it's like if I forget something that I didn't budget for, or I'm surprised by it, I guess you'd call this surprises also. Set something aside in there. Auto maintenance, I know my auto, let's say it's $200. Home maintenance, let's say that's $400 a month. Let's say I do $500 a month for fun, and then I got some left over for these Mars trips. Let's say $500 in. And then I'll just put the remainder here. So, as you can see, this is kind of, so now I allocated all of my funds according to priority. So I made sure my mortgage was taken care of first, or my rent, whichever it is. I've got my grocery money set aside. I've got my utility money set aside. So I've got all this money set aside. Now, this was just convenient enough that I had some money left over here at the bottom to fund some of these wish farm things that I selected. But it's possible that, let's say I'm spending $4,000 a month on my mortgage, and let's say my transportation is $1,000 a month. So now I'm negative $1,200, so I need to get rid of some of these 0, 0, and 2, that's 97. So now I started out, and then I was negative. So now it's come to I don't have enough. I went through, I allocated all my priorities, how much I spend on each one of these categories. When I started getting down towards the bottom, I started running out. I didn't have enough money to allocate for some of these wish farm things. I had $97 that I put towards the contract, but I don't have enough to set aside for that, let's say, furniture I wanted to buy, or that SpaceX Mars trip that I wanted to take, or something. And it could be even more so. I mean, you could get to the point where you don't have enough for fund money, and on and on and on. The point is, I started with the highest priority, highest commitment at the top, worked my way down, and then when I got towards the bottom, so fund money, wish farm, kind of the extras that I want to be doing, I just didn't have enough to set aside. If I want to have more to set aside, if I want, in some sense, water to be left over to put in some of these buckets, I'm going to have to work my way back up the priority list and say, okay, where can I start to reduce or eliminate things where I'll have some extra water left over when I get towards the bottom of my funnel here. So I could say, okay, internet cable. Well, this is easy to pick on, but I'm just going to say that it's 0. Obviously, I can't imagine anybody getting rid of the internet or cable, but hey, you never know. So now I have $175 that I go and cancel my cable and cancel my internet. I have $175 that I can allocate now. So now I can put, let's say, 100 here, and 75 here. So there. Now I had a little bit left over. And I could do the same thing. If I said, well, that's just not enough, I'm not going to build this up quicker. I have to work my way back up. You may find, though, that as you work your way back up, you might start running out of things that you could cut. Transportation is one, but you can get pretty creative if you start to realize, and this is the key, is you're trading certain things off up here for things down here that you're really into. So you may find that there's things up here that you're spending more on, allocating more money to, that you don't necessarily want to be allocating it to. Obviously, you don't want to allocate money to your student loans, but you're obligated to pay them. So there's certain things that you can try to minimize or get rid of, or really think through how much you're spending on something so that you have more to start hitting these kind of things at the bottom of the funnel, kind of what would essentially, like I said before, is be the top of the pyramid of like self-actualization things, where you're doing fun experiences, things that you really, really want to do, things that you're kind of yearning to do, so you have some things left over, if that makes sense. So it's a cascade. Again, big bucket at the top, we're pouring it down, and we're whatever's left over at the bottom, as long as we set these up in some sort of prioritization order, we can start with the most important prioritization / commitment things at the top and work our way down. So we'll talk more about this in other videos as well. So hope that helped. Thanks.